Welcome today to our CS Music Masterclass with Nicholas Pallesen. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Oh, we've got a good number here coming in. We're just gonna wait 1 second while everybody's joining. Hello. Okay, well, welcome everyone to another CS Music Masterclass. We are so excited that everybody could be here today, and hope everyone is healthy and staying safe and enjoying their change in lifestyle and schedule, everything right now, and all the difference and challenges and also opportunities that it's bringing to everyone. And we are excited to be here today with Nicholas Pallesen. Did I say your last name correct?
Pallesen.
Pallesen. Oh, I should have asked. I apologize. But he is going to be speaking to us today. Finding solid ground and thriving in uncertainty is the topic that he plans to address us with. So he's going to talk to us for a little while, and then if you can be prepared with any questions you might have for him, we'll have a question and answer time a little bit later. And just a couple of things to note. There is a digital raise hand that you can push down in, I believe it's under the participant section. And there's also reactions if you want to applaud what someone is saying or give a thumbs up. That's also a fun thing to do. And Nicholas will be able to see that, and everybody else. So without further ado, Nicholas, I'd love for you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit to everyone. Tell us about yourself and we'll get started.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. It's so good to be here. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be here. I hope that in an hour you'll be glad you came. Yeah, quick little bit about me. For many years I lived kind of two lives. I had a career as a performer, a baritone, and had a really fun ride as a singer. I got to sing at the Metropolitan Opera, the English National Opera in London, got to sing at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, and had a pretty good run in all of the opera competitions around the US, and got to sing at a lot of the companies around the US and in Europe. And at the same time as I was performing, I was also working supporting performers with overall mental wellness and performance psychology coaching. And I did both careers kind of together at the same time for a while, until about 3 or so years ago. I started to realize that I had a lot of fun in the spotlight, but I found so much more fulfillment in helping other people shine. So I decided a year and a half ago to retire from performing. So I sang Sharpless and Madame Butterfly at the Santa Fe Opera in the summer of 2018. And then I retired from performing. So I went from 2 full-time jobs to 1, and I've just been coaching and working with performers, just that job for the last year and a half. And so I love being able to speak from the perspective of understanding wellness and understanding kind of what goes into that, but also the experience of having been there myself as a performer, having dealt with all of the challenges that we deal with on stage, and also the things that we have to kind of navigate off stage in our everyday lives. And what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about, like we said, thriving in uncertainty, finding solid ground. And what I would invite you to do, just kind of going into this, I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then, as Mary said, we're going to open it up and allow you guys to share anything that you heard in what I said, or ask any questions that you might have. What I would encourage you to do from the beginning is allow yourself just to stay curious. And as I'm gonna do my best to kind of point in a direction that maybe is a little different from where everybody else has been pointing right now. It was one of these things where to be honest, I kind of hesitated whether or not I actually wanted to do a webinar, because it seems these days, because of the circumstances going on, that everyone and their mom is doing a webinar. And there's like 5 webinars every day, and everybody's got this checklist of things to do, and 5 tips for this and 7 strategies for this, and everybody's got their to-do list that they and and to be honest, I think it can be a little oversaturating sometimes. And so my hesitation in doing this was, well, I don't want to add to your plate, because if you haven't noticed, I think we have a lot that we're dealing with already. And so my hope in this class is to be able to take some things off your plate, to be able to simplify things for you a little bit. So I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of things that you need to go do and apply and practice the second we finish this webinar. Instead, it's going to be things to get really curious about. I'm going to offer some possibilities and invite you just to reflect on it, to sit with it, to see what you can see for yourself, because that, to my mind, is what really makes an impact. That anything that you see for yourself, rather than just, oh, that's a really nice idea, but you see it, you know it in your bones, that's what's really going to stay with you. Because I think we've all done the whole 7 strategies to blah 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 blah, and if you're anything like me, 2 days later you forgot what even most of the steps were, right? So I'm hoping to kind of give you something that might be a little more sustainable, but without giving you more to do, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to share some things that I'm seeing about kind of in the midst of all of this, that I found really helpful, and my clients have found really helpful. I do all of my, it's funny because I tell people that, I was on Zoom before it was cool to be on Zoom. I've been working on Zoom for like the last, 4 years. I do my one-on-one sessions with people all over the world, and I teach workshops at various universities and whatnot, and uh, and I've been talking with a lot of people in the midst of all of this, and just yeah, I just wanted to share what's been really helpful for them and really helpful for me personally. So we so one thing I found really interesting is, in the midst of all of this, that we keep talking about how uncertain these times are. You hear basically everybody, from the news to the blogs to Instagram to in these times of uncertainty, in these uncertain times, I hope you're doing well in these uncertain times. And 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 yeah, we are living in uncertain times. And I think that can feel scary, that can feel a little nerve-wracking. But here's something interesting. The truth of the matter is, we've always lived in uncertain times. The world is exactly as uncertain today as it was a month ago, as it was 2 months ago. The world's exactly as uncertain today as it was on January 1st, when we were all posting on social media about how excited we were for 2020 and what the new year was going to bring. And this is going to be the best year ever. I wonder if anybody's rethinking that now, but, but it's interesting, right? That we kind of talk about it as if life was really certain. And then suddenly a coronavirus happened. And then suddenly the world became uncertain. But the thing is, we've never really known what was going to happen. We have really good guesses. We come up with really good ideas. We think we know, but we've never really known what's going to happen. And, and I think that a lot of kind of what's fueling the fear for people is that we've, up until about a month ago, we were very blissfully living under the illusion that we did know. We were living under the illusion that we actually had certainty. And now that illusion has kind of been shattered. We're kind of all seeing, oh, actually, no, I never really knew to begin with. I was never really in control in the way that maybe I thought I was. Now, to me, that is really good news that might sound like bad news. Some people might be hearing that and going, oh my gosh, it's always been uncertain. Ah, you know. But here's why I think that's good news. Why I think it can be good news. Because if the world's always been uncertain, if we've always been living in times of uncertainty, well, somehow we've made it this far. Somehow we've gotten to where we've gotten. Think about how much has happened in the world over the last centuries. There have been various challenges, there have been various moments of turmoil, there have been other great moments, there have been a lot of stuff's happened in the world. And somehow, even though we've never really known what was going to happen, we've always found a way. We've always figured it out somehow. We've always come on the other side of it. Maybe not always how we would hope or how we would like or how we would have wanted it to go. But we've always seemed to know whatever it is that we needed to know to move through it. And so what that says to me is that we are built for this. We are designed to thrive in uncertainty because that's all we've ever had. And somehow you've figured out a way to overcome your own challenges in your life. Somehow, every time a challenge has come up for you, whether it's like, where am I going to go to grad school? Or, what audition should I take? Or how am I going to solve this problem with my passaggio? Or, should I stay with this partner or not? Or, whatever it might be. Like, anytime that some challenge or some problem or some uncertainty has presented itself to you, you've always seemed to find a way. You've always seemed to figure it out somehow. And so I don't think that I think a lot of people think that our security, our power, our strength lies in our ability to be able to control things or to be able to know what's going to happen. But like I said, we're kind of figuring out that was never the case. I think that our strength, that our kind of true power lies in our capacity to adapt, to adjust, to be flexible, to be able to respond to what is showing up. That, like I said, every time some question or some challenge presents itself, we somehow figure out a solution. We somehow figure out how to get on the other side of it. Even if at the time we don't really know how on earth that's going to happen. And so the way it looks to me, we're built to thrive in uncertainty. It's in our DNA, it's in our design, because we have always been living in the unknown. And we've all managed to make it onto this call, so somehow we're all still here, even though we've never really known what was going to happen. How cool is that? And so I think that's it. It's in our strength, our ability, our solid ground is in the fact that there is something in us that seems to come through us, to help us rise to the occasion, to help us get fresh ideas, to get fresh insights, to get fresh perspectives, to see possibilities that we hadn't even considered before. because it seems to me that there's this wisdom in us, there's this intelligence in us that's kind of bigger than us, that's deeper than us. We often call it like our intuition or our gut or our instinct or, our deeper knowing, whatever you want to call it. I think we've all had that experience of how there's something in us that just knows. And that's something that's always available to us. That instinct can't catch coronavirus. That inner wisdom in us can't get sick. It can't be quarantined. And it comes through us with exactly what we need in the moment we need it. It's a real-time responsive intelligence. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, gosh, like, oh, I'm not sure that's out there. Look around you right now in the world. Look at all of the innovation that's happening right now. Look at all of the things that are happening in the world now that I bet you a month ago people would have said was impossible. Look at how, I'm still like flabbergasted at how they've somehow found a way all over the world to be able to build hospitals in like 2 weeks and put them in stadiums and arenas. That I bet, back in January, people would have said, oh, there's no way you could do that. It's going to take you like a couple of months just to even come up with a plan, and then it's going to take, months to construct it. Like there's no way you could build a 2,000 bed hospital in 2 weeks. And yet that's what just happened in London. That's what's happening in New York right now. Things that before might have seemed completely beyond our ability are now suddenly, we're finding a way. Beer companies are figuring out ways to take their machinery and instead of brewing beer, they're making hand sanitizer. People are using 3D printers to make like face guards for healthcare workers. Companies that have never made a ventilator in their life are suddenly figuring out how to adjust their technology so that they can make ventilators. And not only do you see that in the world, you see that in our community too. Look at all of the different ways that we are creating and making music right now that a month ago people would have thought was crazy. Basically until a month ago, the only person in the world who thought that you could somehow get people all on from different places and get them online at the same time and do a concert together, basically the only person who thought that was possible was Eric Whitacre. Because he's people are like, oh, there's no way you can make a performance happen. Eric Whitacre's like, hey, I've been doing the virtual choir for like years, guys. Like I've been putting thousands of people on for all these years. But like really, like, and look at how people are suddenly finding ways to make music in their living rooms and put on concerts in their living rooms, to create all of these different concert series, to make all of these different videos about opera and about musical theater. Like you're seeing people innovate and finding ways to create even when all the circumstances are kind of up against them. And yet they're finding a way. It baffles me in a great way, because it's like, you see creativity in action, you see innovation in action, you see this real-time intelligence, you see us as a society right now responding in real time to what's showing up, being flexible, adapting, adjusting. And look at all of the amazing stuff that's coming out of it. So when I see that, I see that's solid ground. Is that there's something in us that knows exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. And it may not always be when we think we need it. But when we need it, it shows up. We get a fresh idea. Suddenly a next step appears for us. suddenly we get an idea that hadn't ever occurred to us before. Suddenly something that looked impossible to us a month ago suddenly looks doable. That same creative spirit and innovation, and that same resilience that you're seeing showing up all over the world is in every single person on this call, because we're made of it. We're made of resilience. We're built to thrive in a world of uncertainty. And so what do we do when we start kind of getting up here? When we start kind of getting caught up in the fears? Well, I think first of all, remember that I often say this to my clients, that fear is something we feel. I don't think anybody should feel like you have to go, oh, stop being afraid, stop being fearful, oh, stop doing that. Because ultimately, I don't think we really have control over that. I don't think we have control over how we feel in any given moment. We just kind of, stuff happens, stuff arises with us. Now, I do think that just because a feeling is there doesn't mean we have to engage with it, doesn't mean we have to, go down the rabbit hole with it. I often put it this way, that, fear is a lot like the car radio. Sometimes it's really compelling and really loud. Sometimes, you might even want to sing along with it. Sometimes it seems really interesting. But the car radio isn't going to tell you where to turn left. The radio is not going to tell you what exit to take. The radio is not going to tell you how to get where you need to go. But that's kind of where we tend to look in moments like this. We try to think it through in our head. We try to figure it out up here, and we try to and we engage with all of that noise. But remember that just because a song is playing on the radio doesn't mean you have to sing along. And when you just allow yourself to kind of get back to now, your mind settles, it quiets. And then from that space, you just kind of go, well, what do I know to do now? What occurs to me to do in this moment? What makes sense to me for me to do right now? Because that's really all we have is now. Now is the only place we can take action. So getting back to that space of, okay, fear is just me like kind of creating a bunch of scary futures in my head, which we all do sometimes. We're human beings. But again, we don't have to engage with that, because again, the radio isn't going to tell us what exit to take. But just bringing as best we can our attention back to now, and just kind of, what do we know to do in this moment? For anybody who watched Frozen 2, I cried, by the way, watching it like several times. And my wife made fun of me, because I'm like a total crier, and she's not. And so I'm sitting there crying, bawling in the theater, and she's like, oh gosh, there he goes again. But it's like, but I think that Anna was onto something. When you don't know what to do, when you feel overwhelmed, just do the next right thing. Take a step. What is that next right step? And then the great thing is, as we take that next step, as we do that next right thing, then something else is going to appear, and something else is going to appear. And then pretty much before you know it, all these small next steps, these next right things, add up to a big leap. And just know that, also keeping on the Frozen theme, the Frozen 2 theme, that if we always have been living in uncertainty, if that's just how we've gotten through life up until this point, then I think that uncertainty isn't something we need to be afraid of. That the more we actually point ourselves into the unknown, the more we look into the unknown, that's that's where all of these cool ideas that are coming to fruit in the world are coming from. So, so be willing to hang out in the unknown 5 minutes longer. See what shows up. See what occurs to you to do, and then go do that. Because again, we've been living our entire lives in the unknown. And that was something that I really realized the other day. And I was like, oh my gosh, then why have I been so afraid of it? Because for years I was so afraid of the unknown. And it's like, but wait, I've been in the unknown for 41 years and I've somehow survived. Why would a coronavirus be any different? Why would a pandemic be any different? I've somehow gotten through it all up until this point. I'll probably know what to do now. The more we look into the unknown, that's where what we're looking for is. So for me, that's solid ground. And and the other cool thing I'll just kind of throw out, and then I want to turn it over to you, is as musicians, this is kind of also not just as human beings, but as musicians, this is also what we're built for. Because think about the very nature of what we do as musicians is always showing up and responding to what shows up in the moment. When we're in the practice room, okay, oh, okay, yeah, okay, okay, well, let me play with this, let me explore, let me figure out how to make this adjustment. Oh, cool, I got an idea. Oh, I figured that out. When we're in a performance and the conductor is taking some weird tempo that they hadn't taken before, or suddenly our colleagues did different blocking, or that prop that we were used to being on the table is not on the table, or or all this stuff happens, right? Like we've always just kind of instinctively in the moment kind of said, okay, here's how I'm going to react to it, here's how I'm going to respond to it. Like that's the name of our game as artists, is kind of taking what's given to us and finding a way, responding, reacting in real time. So it's like in a way, it's like, yeah, I think it's built into us. But then also in a way, as musicians, we've had special on-the-job training for navigating a pandemic. Because right now is when all of those skills that make our art so alive, that make everything we do so cool, like that's when we get to put all those skills on display. So, you know, I said this the other day in a call to somebody. It's like, it's kind of like, really, this is just one big new work, one new big piece of music that we just have to learn and navigate our way around. But you've got everything you need to do it. So that's the possibility that I want to offer to you, is what if you're built for this? What if you've been built for this from day one? And all we need is just to rely on that fact that there's something in us that will show up and help us rise to the occasion, as it has all throughout our life thus far, and will rise to the occasion to give us exactly whatever we need, exactly when we need it. And know that it doesn't have to be completely up to us to go at it alone. We've got help. We've got this deeper resilience in us, this deeper wisdom in us that will do the heavy lifting if we let it. So, what I'd love to do now is I'd love to just kind of make the rest of the hour, the last 30 minutes that we have, I'd love to just kind of let this be your time. And I would love to hear, first of all, if anybody, is up for sharing anything that you've heard in this, anything that's kind of landed for you or resonated for you or helped kind of spark something for you. I'd love to hear that. And then I'd also, in addition to that, I'd love to hear any questions that you have. And we can talk about anything I've just talked about, or we could kind of go anywhere too. Treat that as almost like an ask me anything kind of thing. It doesn't even have to be on topic to what I was just saying. If there's something else that's on your mind that you think would be really cool to explore, let me know. And so, and the way that we're going to do this is we're just going to kind of bring you on one at a time. And so we'll just ask you to go into the participants box and the participants tab, and then raise, if you want to speak, just raise your digital hand. And then Mary is going to kind of bring you guys on one by one and unmute you, and then we'll go from there. So over to you. What did you hear in this, and what would be really helpful to explore?
Looks like Lisa has a question. Lisa?
Hello. Thank you so much.
Hi,
I was
Lisa.
so hi. I was
But
so
really quick, where are you in the world?
I am in Brooklyn, New York City.
Hey, awesome. Well, so glad to
I
have you here.
thank you so much. I was so happy to hear what you said, that many steps equal a giant leap. I've often thought like there's some people who make a splash or an overnight success, and overnight success is not actually really true. There's tons of auditions behind that and tons of practicing and studying. A question. Do steps have to be planned based on what you said?
I I think that's a pretty cool question. First of all, what you said, I'll speak to the first part quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's that famous saying, and I know I'm going to totally butcher it. But yeah, I always love it when people talk, in Broadway or Hollywood actors talk about, it took me 15 years to become an overnight sensation. you know, like, yeah, I think that is the process for most people. Is that it doesn't happen overnight. That it is a series of small steps along the way. Now to the question about steps, I think what's coming to mind right now is that we're going to know what's best for us, and what's best for us might vary from moment to moment. And so there might be times when it really makes sense and feels right to us to make plans and to plan out steps. And then there might be times where it just feels right to kind of, head in a direction and see what happens. I think it is kind of valuable, going back to the inner kind of wisdom metaphor. One metaphor that I often like to use to describe it is, I often call it an inner GPS. And I kind of alluded to that when I was talking about the radio earlier, is that the GPS is going to tell us where to go. A GPS works really well once you give it a destination. It can't do much for you unless you have an address plugged into it, right? But then what I love about it, especially the GPSs these days, is that it's gonna give me whatever the best route is for me in that moment. So it's interesting for me. Sometimes I'll put in a destination into the GPS, and and it'll have me go this route that is not the usual route that I always take. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, but it knows that on that route that I normally take, there's a lot of traffic or there's an accident. And it's giving me kind of whatever the best route is for me in that moment. And so yeah, so one day it might make sense to you to make some plans. Another day it might not. But you're going to kind of know what you need in every moment. And I personally I've found that when I have a direction that I want to head in, I look in that direction, and then I am just really open to the GPS getting me there in whatever way makes best sense. And so I have some ideas about how I think something is going to play out, but I love being able to stay flexible. that even if I do make plans, that I'm not going to hold on to them too tightly, because then I'm not going to be as able to hear that GPS saying, hey, actually, one of my favorite things on the GPS is when it says, we found a route for you that's 15 minutes faster. Would you like to take it? And I'm like, duh, of course. But when we're holding on so tightly to the plans, sometimes it's really hard to hear that. So I think, do I think that, every step needs to be planned? No. I don't know how we could know how everything is supposed to play out. But if some things occur to us to look in a direction and start moving in that direction, great. And then know that as you're going along the way, you'll get other pieces of information, other pieces of the puzzle. Does that make sense? Do you hear anything in that that's helpful for you?
Certainly. You clarified it very well. And you describing the inner GPS was a great analogy.
Oh, awesome. Like, I'm so glad that was helpful, because, another thing I love about the GPS is that when I plug in the destination, it doesn't throw me every direction right now that I need. Could you imagine how overwhelming that would be? Like, right? But it gives me whatever I need right now, because it knows that's all I really need. But I think one way that sometimes plans, can get sticky is when we think, well, it has to go that way. Or I have to know before I even start, before I even take action, I have to know how every step I'm going to take. I don't think that's true. I think more often than not, my experience has been that once I start heading in a direction, the how kind of reveals itself along the way. Is that helpful?
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for your question.
So I think our next question is here with Laurel. And I wanted to mention really quick before Laurel gets started that if somebody has a question but you don't necessarily want to speak, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll make sure that Nicholas sees those as well. Does that sound
cool?
Okay, Nicholas?
Yeah, and I'm glad, because I end up not generally paying attention to the chat box because it just distracts me and kind of takes me out of the moment. So I'm glad that somebody else is watching out for me.
No problem. Okay, so
Hi, Nicholas.
Hey, you. I know you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I am loving kind of where this whole discussion is heading. I just wanted to say that I love the whole idea about same with me, same with Lisa, the small steps comment. I love that, because that spoke to me on a level where I feel like I'm always trying to figure out what's going to be at the end of all those steps. And so I'm always looking for a shortcut, and always looking, how can I just like do it all in one fell swoop without these steps? But that's not the point. I don't have to have that figured out. And in fact, that's not really how it works, not only professionally, but just like in a greater life sense. Like, it's those small steps that, you really can't shortchange some of that. And so I've been wasting all this time and energy trying to, and it's kind of cool how futile that appears to me now, because it's like, why would I do that? And then just the other thing I wanted to say is, I love the idea of into the unknown stuff, because I had a thought yesterday where I was in a kind of a swirly place and the car radio was up really loud. And I suddenly had this thought where it was like, it doesn't matter what your thoughts are right now. It just doesn't matter. None of it really matters, because you don't have to choose one. And forever I've been trying to assign choices, like, oh, I should think this at this moment, and I should feel this way at this moment, and this is a better thought than this. But the truth is none of that matters. It's okay that it's there. And I don't have to make a decision on my thought process. And so that's kind of feeling that yesterday, and then linking that up with what you're saying. I just wanted to say it's all kind of settling in this new place. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'll I'll speak to that kind of quickly, just what occurred to me in the moment. First of all, apologies in advance if I have now put into the unknown into your heads for the rest of the day. If you know, if I've just created an earworm for you, I'm sorry to everybody. You know, that's going to be playing nonstop in your head. You know, yeah, it's, you know, what occurred to me when you said that is I thought it was really beautiful, and it got me thinking about how for so many years in my life, my kind of process of living and my process of working was all about making sure that in any given moment I had the right thoughts and the right feelings, you know? And and kind of what I've seen in the last, you know, 4 years or so, as my life and my work have gone in a very different direction from what I used to do, is is that that just tends to keep us in our head. That tends to kind of put our focus on the very things we're trying to get rid of. And yeah, and when we're in our head, it's really hard to be in life. It's really hard to feel more connected to that GPS, because we're just so caught up in the radio. And what I've noticed is that when I'm not actively trying to find the right feeling and the right thought, I just end up kind of being in life a lot more, being present a lot more. And then what's funny is that whatever I need in that moment, whatever feeling I need, whatever thought I need, it just finds me. And I think that that's really cool. Going back to this idea that there's something in us that knows even better than us what we need right now, and will show up and give that for us. So yeah, it was kind of cool. Like once I saw that, like, oh yeah, like whatever I need finds me when I stop chasing it. That's just really cool. So thank you so much. It's so good to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here.
It's so good to see you too. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. All right, who's next, Mary?
I think Mike has a question. Mike, let's see here. Oh.
You might have to unmute yourself. There you go. You're unmuted now.
Hi, hello.
Hi. Where are you in the world?
I'm in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada.
Oh, awesome.
So it's a little chilly here as usual, but it's a nice sunny
yeah, I
day.
can imagine. Awesome.
So thank you so much for holding this webinar. It's really fantastic.
My
And
pleasure.
I guess for me, one of the things that really spoke to me, I guess for some reason we're all in this car metaphor, is really speaking to us. I don't even drive anymore because I just take the public transit. I don't have a car anymore myself here. But what you said about just because a song is playing on the radio, you don't have to sing along, really spoke to me, because I think a lot of times in my life, I felt sort of out of place or fish out of water. And sort of this year especially, really been listening to myself more and trying to do what speaks to me, even if it's not what most people are doing or what most people are telling me, because one size doesn't fit all. So I think it's challenging sometimes, because I think there's a part of us that wants to fit in or wants to please other people, but I think there's also a sense of great satisfaction sort of really living in your own truth and living authentically as an artist, as a human. So yeah, that was really what I think spoke to me today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that spoke to you. And it got me thinking about something that I often say in my work, which is that you're the expert on you. And when it comes to you, no one in this world is wiser than you. That you're going to know better than anybody else what's best for you in any given moment. And I'll just kind of take that zoom it out for a minute, because to me, what that means is that you're going to know better than anybody else how to best navigate this pandemic. You know, because we got people telling us, okay, everyone's got to be productive now, and everybody's got to like get a bunch of stuff done. And then we have a bunch of other people who are saying, okay, no, everybody's got to slow down and like stop doing all this stuff. And you know, and the thing is the answer might be yeah, maybe. Like, I don't think that there's any right way to do coronavirus. I don't think there's any right way to be feeling right now or to be doing that you should be doing. Like, you're going to know what's best for you. So if that means that one day you feel like being really productive and doing a bunch of stuff, then go be productive and do a bunch of stuff. And if that means that, you know, today you feel like just sitting around and watching Tiger King on Netflix, then just watch Tiger King or whatever your favorite show is, you know. But like I know that like something that I've been seeing a lot, people coming to me with, is, you know, they're feeling drawn toward kind of doing whatever, but everybody else is telling them, no, you need to be doing this. You need to be blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, maybe if that's what feels right for you, great. And if not, great. Like, you're going to know what's best for you. There's no right way to feel or be right now, other than what feels right for you right now. And if that changes, that's okay. You know, you'll know. Listen to that. Because I don't know if anybody should be more productive right now or slow down right now, but you will. You'll know what to do. So cool. I'm so glad that I'm so glad that even kind of before this all went down, Mike, that you've been kind of seeing that and kind of feeling that and living from that space. I think it's the really best space to live from. No one is wiser than you when it comes to you. So thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Well, all right, who do we got next?
Okay, so Shauna has a question. I'll unmute you, Shauna.
Hi.
Hey, Shauna. Where
Hi,
are you at?
I'm in Portland, Maine, and I'm here with Michaela today.
Oh my gosh, I would move to Portland, Maine tomorrow if I could. I love it there. So gorgeous.
Yes, it is. I just want to say that I kind of echo some other thoughts, but I appreciate the fact that if you really strip it down, what has ever been certain especially for a classical singer, like what audition has ever been a certain thing, you know, so we are kind of like living in that anyway. So kind of relying on what we know. This might be more what you do in your individual practices, but I've seen you kind of post some things along the lines of mindfulness, kind of in terms of embracing performance anxiety and things like that. So is it essentially just a real quick soundbite maybe on, is it that you turn the radio down when, you know, you have this mind chatter? Or are you turning the radio down, or do you just learn how to listen to the GPS with that at that kind of constant level?
What popped into my head right now is it's about seeing that you are capable of doing great work no matter what the radio is doing.
Mm.
Like, for me, that's it. Like, I think one of the things that I've really seen that's changed a lot in my work is that there's our mood, there's kind of how we're feeling in the moment, there's what we're thinking, and that comes and goes. I'm sure we've all noticed that, especially these days, that our moods kind of fluctuate and go up and down. Our thoughts kind of go all over the place, right? But that's independent of this innate capacity that we have to show up and do whatever we're doing in the world. And so I often talk about it, you know, sports and performance psychologists often talk about the mental toughness game, you know, which is for them, which is all about learning how to train your brain to think certain thoughts, to feel certain feelings, you know, when you're in performance, because you need to feel a certain way in order to perform at your best. And that's kind of what the whole paradigm is based on. And the way that I tend to approach it is more, I look at it more from a different way, because for me, the mental toughness game is really just a game about control. Like it's all about control, controlling my thoughts, controlling my feelings, controlling circumstances. And for some reason now we're seeing Rose's screen. That's all right. There we go. Okay. And we're back. So, you know, but yeah, it's a game of control. And the problem with that, then if things aren't lined up exactly as you need them to be, you're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something even more on offer. I tend to point people more toward mental freedom rather than mental toughness, mental freedom. And mental freedom for me is, rather than helping people get into a specific mindset in order to perform, I help people see that they're capable of performing no matter what mindset they're in.
Oh.
Yeah. Because there's something so freeing to me about being able to just show up as you are that day.
Mm.
You know, that you might be feeling confident, you might be feeling insecure, you might be feeling anxious, you might be feeling super zen, you might be feeling excited, you might be feeling freaked out. But that regardless of how you're feeling, you're free and you're capable to show up and do your thing. And so yeah, and it's like once we start to kind of get a glimpse of that fact that that capacity is there, and we start to kind of see that who we are is not our thoughts, then what we think starts to kind of just not be as compelling. But we see that regardless of where our head goes, we're good to go. We can show up and do our thing no matter what. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. I think it's actually game changing. So I'd be interested to learn more about it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a completely different paradigm, really. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I often put it that way because it's not just another way of like kind of seeing it, you know, like from just a different angle. It's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
Like if I'm capable of doing great, if I'm capable of showing up and doing my thing, you know, regardless of my mood, that's totally different from, you know, okay, wait, I need to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
So, you know, so yeah, cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
So glad to hear that. Thank you so much. So Mary, I think we can squeeze one more really quick one in before we wrap up.
So we have Amy here who's been waiting.
Hello, Amy.
Let me unmute her.
Hi, I was just
Hi,
wondering,
Amy.
what would your best advice be for like, I really struggle with waiting, and the longer I wait, the more anxiety I build up. So do you have any advice before like waiting for a performance and how to calm anxiety during like waiting?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to do my best to give you the best answer I can in a couple of minutes. Here's something I'd love for you to sit with and go reflect on your own and kind of just see what shows up for you. What if it was perfectly okay to feel anxious? Like what if it was genuinely okay if you felt anxious?
I feel like that would help me calm down more.
Yeah. Because I think you're onto something with that. And it was interesting just to see how you even kind of settled down even as you just considered that. You know? There is something so freeing with giving ourselves permission to be who and where we are. And I think that a lot of what gets in our way is that we think we should be feeling a certain way. So then we try everything to kind of not feel that way. And, you know, and that which we resist persists. You know, it's kind of like trying to make yourself fall asleep at night when you're not tired. It just makes you more awake and more kind of wired, and your mind's like going even louder. Well, I think that's it, is that when we feel anxious, but we've kind of learned that feeling anxious is bad and the scary thing that we've got to get rid of, well, then we try to get rid of the anxiety, and trying to get rid of the anxiety is, I think, is actually the thing that gives it more life. But yeah, but what if it was okay? That feeling anxious doesn't mean anything about you other than you're a human being and you're alive. Doesn't mean you're not a good singer, doesn't mean you can't do anything, doesn't mean you're never going to be anything, doesn't mean anything's wrong with you, doesn't mean the audition's going to go horribly, just means you're a human being. And like I was saying to Shauna a minute ago, you're good to go regardless. Whether you feel anxious or confident, you're equally capable of showing up and doing what you need to do. So sit with that. Anything coming up for you right now in that?
That's really helpful, because I feel like I feel like you're right that when you try to like calm your anxiety down, it just builds it more. Instead of helping to calm it down, it just rises more. Whereas if you like validate the feeling almost kind of goes away, because it's like, it's a feeling.
Yeah. And feelings come and go. That's what they do. We're never stuck in a feeling. No feeling is permanent. And no feeling is who we actually are. It's just weather kind of passing through. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we got to chat about that a little bit.
Thank
So
you.
my pleasure. So we're kind of coming up toward the end of time. So I just want to kind of wrap things up, because I want to be mindful of the fact that you guys probably have a lot of other things going on today. I hope that this opens up some possibilities for you. I hope that this kind of gets you curious to maybe just take a fresh look at maybe the way you've been kind of looking at yourself or looking at life throughout everything going on here. To be more curious about the possibility that everything that you're looking for to kind of navigate this pandemic, to navigate these times of uncertainty, everything you're looking for is already there. You've already got it. Because we were built to thrive in uncertainty. We were built to be able to kind of respond to what life throws us in the moment, to be able to respond to what shows up in the moment. So that so that really to consider the possibility that you are everything you seek. And you are everything you need. And that as you just allow yourself to kind of remember that there's something even more helpful for navigating than the radio. That there's a GPS in us that is designed to kind of give us what we need along the way. And that all we ever have to do is just take that next small step, do that next right thing. You might be surprised to kind of see that somehow you emerge on the other side of it a whole lot stronger, a whole lot wiser, a whole lot more alive than you thought. So for anybody who is kind of curious, because a couple of people had mentioned some of my stuff on Instagram. Instagram, for anybody who's kind of curious to stay in the conversation, to kind of learn more about me, learn more about my work, my Instagram is a great place to find me. It's just Nicholas Pallesen, and you can follow me on Instagram, and I share videos, I share little microblogs, little ideas that I hope are helpful and hopeful. And so that's a really great place to find me. I'm also really good at replying to DMs. So if you have questions, shoot me a message on Instagram. Happy to answer any questions and do what I can to support you. Also, my website is nicholaspallesen.com. And there you'll find my blog, which has a lot of articles about life, about performance anxiety, about all sorts of things. And so there, and you can also learn more about the work that I offer. For anybody that's curious and kind of what working with me would look like, I have information there about the different programs I offer. So you can kind of get everything you need there on my website. You can also contact me through my website. There's a form there for you to do that. And yeah, I would say those are the two best places to kind of find me, to stay in the conversation. And feel free to reach out beyond with any questions. I see Megan had her hand up, and I know Megan. So feel free to get in touch with me and ask whatever your question was. Happy to help you offline. But anybody else who maybe didn't get to ask a question, or just things come up along the way, yeah, feel free to reach out. And again, I would encourage you just to stay curious. Let yourself sit with this. Let yourself curiously wonder about it, reflect on it, see what shows up for you, see what you see for yourself. And that I think is what's going to help you be even more in solid ground. So, and thank you to CS Music for having me do this. It's been such a joy. And for anybody who's going to be attending the now virtual convention at the end of May, I'll be teaching a couple of classes there too. It'll be my 5th year at the convention, and excited to explore it in this new format. So that'll be fun to see how that all goes. So thanks again for your time. Thanks again for being here, and stay curious, my friends, and remember that you've got this. You're built for this.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. We're excited to have you at the convention as well. And we've got lots of thank yous going on in the chat right now. So we really appreciate your time, appreciate you spending it with us. And hopefully everyone feels like we all learned something and have been able to take away something, because it's an interesting time that we're living in right now. So thank you so very much. And thanks everyone for joining us. And hopefully you're all able to make it to our next masterclass that will be happening on Friday. So thanks so much, Nicholas.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Yay, thank you.